Buenos dias from Antigua, Guatemala. In this video, we will begin to unravel the charming city of Antigua and highlight some of the best things to do, eat, and see. And as usual, I've left some timestamps in the description below in case you want to skip ahead or come back to certain sections to revisit later. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this video to be of value. Antigua is located in southwestern Guatemala, about 45 minutes drive from La Hora International Airport, where most travelers first arrive in the country. The city lies in an earthquake-prone region and is surrounded by three majestic volcanoes, including the inactive volcanoes of Agua and Acatenango and the active volcano of Fuego, which can often be seen erupting in the backdrop of the city. In 1543, Antigua became the third site for the capital of the Spanish colonial Captaincy General of Guatemala and took the same name as the former two capitals, which was Santiago de los Caballeros de Guatemala. As the capital, many beautiful colonial buildings were built throughout the city, and for more than 200 years, it served as the capital of colonial power covering most of modern-day Central America and Mexico's state of Chiapas, but not without its challenges. The city has experienced earthquakes, floods, and volcano eruptions that have challenged its struggle to maintain its existence through destruction and reconstruction. Earthquakes in 1717 and 1751 caused significant damage to the city, and there were discussions to move the capital to a less earthquake-prone region, but it was not until after the massive earthquake of 1773 that officials decided a few years later in 1776 to move the capital to Guatemala City, which remains the capital of the country today. Despite official evacuation orders, the city was never completely abandoned, and some of the residents stayed and rebuilt around the earthquake ruins of the old capital city, which came to be known as La Antigua Guatemala or Old Guatemala. Restoration efforts gained momentum after the President's declaration of the city as a national monument in 1944, and in 1969 a law was passed to provide a legal framework to protect, restore, and conserve Antigua and create the National Council for the Protection of Antigua Guatemala. Unfortunately, another major earthquake hit in 1976, killing thousands and severely damaging the city again, creating yet another cycle of destruction and reconstruction. And in 1979, Antigua became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, ramping up restoration efforts and helping to eventually make it a very popular tourist destination. Antigua has endured earthquakes, floods, eruptions, and near abandonment, but today it stands as a testament to the Guatemalans' resilience, perseverance, and capacity to rebuild in the wake of many challenges and disasters. Most visitors agree that Antigua is one of the most charming cities in the Americas due to its cobblestone streets, beautiful plazas, fountains, and Baroque-influenced colonial architecture, including several earthquake ruins scattered throughout the city, as well as the three majestic volcanoes that stand tall in its backdrop. Antigua is extremely walkable and pedestrian-friendly with two major caveats. The first caveat is that there are some serious cobblestone streets here, so you got to be careful as you're navigating your way around the city. Caveat number two is that there are zero traffic lights at the intersection, so particularly on Saturdays and Sundays, you got to be careful when you're crossing the street with traffic. But other than that, I'd say this city is super pedestrian friendly and easy to navigate on foot. The central plaza called Parque Central is a great spot to begin wandering around Antigua. It's a central hub of activity with many locals and tourists chilling on benches, enjoying the green space, feeding the birds, chatting, and people watching. It's always buzzing with activity, especially on the weekends, and it's one of my favorite spots in the city to stroll around or take a seat on one of the benches and take it all in. If you love to people watch in new places like I do, you'll definitely want to spend some time here. You'll also see many locals from nearby villages, including Mayan women wearing colorful traditional clothing, selling all kinds of goods, so be prepared to be approached by them to buy something. And if you're not interested in buying anything, I found that in most cases, a simple and polite no gracias was enough and they'd be on their way. The central plaza also has many shady green places and is surrounded by beautiful colonial structures as well as restaurants, cafes, and shops. On one side is the beautiful Cathedral de San Jose, which was the site of a previous church dating back to the 16th century that was damaged by earthquakes and then demolished to build a new church completed in 1680, and then was severely damaged again by the 1773 earthquake, and then partially rebuilt again to become a functioning church where religious services are currently being held. On another side is the Palacio de los Capitanes Generales, with a beautiful arched facade that dates back to the 16th century, which I believe is the only part of the original building that has withstood the earthquakes here. This building was the colonial headquarters for over 200 years until the capital was relocated a few years after the 1773 earthquake, which caused significant damage to the building. The palace has since been renovated and is now the National Museum of Art of Guatemala, which is free to enter. The exhibit features 3,000 years of Guatemala's cultural heritage and art from pre-Hispanic times through the colonial period and Republican era, right up until contemporary times, including art that features high-tech lights and screens. As I wandered through the exhibit, I found myself moving through a wide range of reactions, from wonder and amazement at many of the ancient Mayan artifacts and giant religious paintings, to amusement and bewilderment at some of the more modern pieces on display. And from the second floor of the museum, there are great views of Parque Central and the church. Definitely worth a visit and perfect for a rainy day afternoon. And don't forget to stop by to admire the central fountain of Mermaid shooting water from the breasts. I read that this fountain is a replica of the original that was first created here in 1738, which was inspired by Italian Renaissance books, and particularly the Neptune fountain in Bologna, Italy. I suspect this fountain was somewhat controversial for its time in 1738, and maybe still is nowadays given the Catholic Church standing right next to it. Just a short walk down Avenida Cinco is the Arco de Santa Catalina, which is probably the most iconic structure in Antigua. I think most everyone will recognize photos of this famous structure with the majestic volcano Agua in the backdrop. It was originally constructed in 1694 as a passageway for cloistered nuns who could not be seen in public. And just around the corner is another iconic building in Antigua, the striking yellow Baroque Iglesia La Merced, damaged in the 1773 earthquake, but still standing today as a functioning church, while the convent buildings behind it fell to ruins. And right beside the church is a small market with several food stalls, as well as handicrafts, paintings, and other souvenirs for sale. And on the other side of town, near the ruins of Convento Santa Clara, another iconic structure worth checking out is called Tanque La Union, which was a public wash basin built in 1853 for locals to come and do their laundry, offering both a practical utility and a social hub overlooking a small, beautiful plaza. Imagine the gossip that was shared here while people were washing their clothes. And as you wander around the cobblestone streets, you'll probably see some fully pimped out buses. These are known as chicken buses, which are old school buses from the United States that have been repurposed here in Guatemala for transport. Wandering around Antigua offers something beautiful and interesting around every corner, especially for lovers of history, architecture, art, and people watching. Earthquake ruins are everywhere, and you could spend an entire week exploring the various ruins throughout the city. As you wander around the cobblestone streets, you'll see several ruins from the outside, but you can also pay a fee to enter several of the ruin sites to walk around and let your imagination transport you to another time. Convento Santa Clara is a huge building. An original construction of the convent was completed in 1705 before the 1717 earthquake, which destroyed it, before it was reconstructed again by 1734. It covers almost an entire city block and housed up to 50 nuns before it was abandoned after the 1773 earthquake. The ruins include beautiful gardens, fountains, stairways, narrow passageways and corridors, and a striking facade with stone sculptures and decorations. I read that this site has become a popular place for weddings as well, which is no surprise given how incredibly photogenic it is. Convent Capuchinas was originally built in 1736 but was severely damaged by the 1773 earthquake. It has many different rooms and courtyards and gardens to explore, and also features a unique tower with 18 living cells for nuns around a central patio where you can begin to sense what life would have been like here for the nuns. You can step into their well-preserved living cells where you can begin to imagine how they lived. This was my favorite site of ruins, and it had a very haunting feel to it, as though I could almost hear whispers of the nuns who once lived here. Definitely worth a visit. Casa Santo Domingo Hotel is located inside the ruins of the Santo Domingo Convent. While the 1773 earthquake destroyed the convent, much of it has been restored into a high-end hotel and ruins surrounding a beautiful courtyard, which also features a giant ceiba tree, which is the national tree of Guatemala. Staying at this hotel is not on my budget, but it is definitely worth a visit. For some great traditional Guatemalan food, head to La Cuveta de los Urquizu, which serves up a range of traditional meat stews and various side dishes, all displayed in the front of the restaurant so you can see all your options as you enter. Pepián de pollo is one of the most popular traditional Guatemalan dishes, which is a thick stew of chicken, potatoes, and vegetables in a pumpkin seed sauce that has a bit of a kick, but not too spicy. I recommend that you give this dish a try in this restaurant. It's delicious. For one of the best value options in town that is very popular with locals and tourists alike, head to Rincón Típico. As you walk in, you'll see handmade tortillas being made fresh for each order. You order your food at the cash counter inside, and they give you a number to take to one of the tables in their pleasant courtyard where you can see the big wood-fired roasting oven with chicken and potatoes. The most popular dish is pollo a la leña, which is roasted chicken served with potatoes, salad, fresh handmade tortillas, and a refillable drink of the day, all for 40Q. This is one of the best deals in town for great quality food at great prices with fast and friendly service. It's only open during the day and it gets super busy in the afternoon, so get there before the rush. For interesting fusion food that is also budget friendly, head to Toko, a cool little restaurant that makes delicious fusion dishes with Middle Eastern, Indian, and Indonesian influences, with very good portion sizes. This was one of my favorite places to eat in Antigua as a solo traveler. I felt very comfortable eating here alone and often ended up striking up a conversation with other solo travelers. My favorite dish was the chicken puri with roasted potatoes, pita wrap, and yogurt sauce. A great place to have a meal and a couple beers in the evenings at a very reasonable price. For an excellent farm to fork experience, head to Caoba Farms, about a 15-minute walk or short tuk-tuk ride just outside of Antigua. Not the cheapest menu in town, but worth the splurge for delicious farm fresh food, including smoothies, sandwiches, burgers, salads, and pizza, with several vegetarian and vegan options. You can also walk around the farm to see how they grow and produce their food. The farm setting is very beautiful and tranquil, and the food, service, and ambiance are all excellent. They also have some interesting murals featured around the parking lot of the restaurant worth checking out as you leave. I highly recommend having brunch or lunch at some point during your stay in Antigua for a great farm to fork experience. And for a sweet treat, head to the Chocolate Museum to pick up some delicious house-made chocolate. They have several options for chocolate treats coming in a range of flavors. I tried various white, milk, and dark chocolate treats, and they're all delicious. You can also learn about the history and process of chocolate making and take a chocolate making workshop if you wish. So I'm just on my way to Cerro de la Cruz, which is supposed to have some spectacular views of the volcano and the city. So I read that it's just a short hike up, so yeah, hopefully a little hike pays off when we get to the top. It's actually a beautiful path on the way up here, a beautiful forested path. So it's a beautiful walk as we ascend to the lookout. And the short hike up definitely pays off because the views here are spectacular. So I was gonna fly my drone for the first time and feature a segment in this video, but as I got up here to Cerro de la Cruz, there were people here already flying their drone and it just got stuck in the tree, high up in the tree, and they're trying to shake it out. Needless to say, we're not gonna fly the drone today. So I spent an entire month in Antigua and I enjoyed all of my time there, but I feel like I have to warn you that it is super duper touristy. So just keep that in mind when you're coming to visit, that you're gonna have to face the crowds of tourists. But definitely worth a visit, super beautiful, tons of history, tons of architecture, definitely worth putting on your itinerary for at least a few days. And if you haven't already, you can check out my other video from Guatemala on Lake Atitlan. So I'll leave a link somewhere up here, and stay tuned for my next video coming to you from Lima, Peru. Thanks for watching Wander Yonder.